Hello and welcome to another focus video in Revit. This time we are going to focus on the construction of an amphitheater or large concrete form type seating. This project was brought to me by one of my former students. It's an excellent design. We just need to figure out with the complexity how we're going to put it into Revit. So uh, props to Christopher for the design and the sketches for this project. It's definitely a fascinating project, just a little more complex than usual. So hopefully we can get this straightened out. As always, if anybody has any specific problems, I know that it can be hard to find answers sometimes, and I know that I don't always have all the answers, obviously. But if there's something that you're stuck on, feel free. You can always add a comment, contact me, and I can try and come up with a solution or help you come up with a solution to the problem. I definitely don't want to do the work for you, but I want to do something similar to where you can follow along and figure it out for yourself. So, time permitting, hopefully, that if there's any questions, like I said, you can always feel free to contact me. So, what I've done here is created a new project. Christopher was kind enough to give me some sketches, so I'm going to actually bring those into Revit for reference. So I'm going to go to Insert, and I'm going to insert an image. I have them conveniently located here on my desktop. We're in the plan view, so I'm going to bring in the actual plan first. Okay, we're not going to use these to trace. We're just going to use these strictly for reference. The measurements are listed on it. So I'm just going to scale them down nice and small so that I can see them. Okay, so there's the plan view for that. And I'm going to actually open up a east elevation view and bring in a profile here. Okay, so now I'm going to insert another image, and this time it'll be curve profile. Alright, and again, I'm not going to trace anything here, so it can just be whatever size works for you. We're just using, again, for quick reference. In the past, we've used AutoCAD or Photoshop and jump back and forth. I thought it would be good to go ahead and introduce the concept of bringing reference images in for modeling things. Okay, so let's jump back here. Take a look at what we're going to try to do here. I'm not going to do the whole thing for Christopher, but I want to maybe focus definitely on this first, what I would call a blade to this kind of fan out, and maybe the second one, because it's going to be kind of tricky on how this all comes into play here. So, and again, I don't want to step on toes, but I definitely will give you an idea of how you can achieve what you need to achieve here. So, looking at this, we need to create this first section, okay? And as you can see, they're layered, so the first section is a little bit higher in this area. So the steps kind of come underneath that first section, giving this a little bit of a roof, as you will, and same over here, it steps down one more time. So these large lines represent large seating type steps, okay? So they're 3 feet deep, as you can see here, and it looks like the actual foot traffic steps or the stairs, it looks like there's 3 to every one, so we'll go ahead and say that these are 12-inch treads. What we don't have on here, and is no big deal, it's kind of nice actually, I can show for those of you not familiar with calculating these types of situations of how we figure out our height for what we're going to use in Revit. Okay, so we know that from the front of this mast to the back is 42 feet, and we know that these are from this dimension here, and how this is illustrated, we're going to assume that these are a foot each. So that tells us that there are 42 treads from here to the top. Okay, that's given to us in the 42, and the fact that those are a foot. So all we need to know now is actually how high these go, and in order to do that, we have to assume a tread height, and we're going to assume a tread height of between 7 and 8 inches. I'm going to go ahead and, for the sake of this, I'm going to pick 8. That might not be in code. This is just something I'm picking off the top of my head. 8 might be a little steep. 7 I know is typical for commercial, but I'm going to run with 8 inches. So I'm going to have a height of 8 inches for my tread. Okay, with that we can go back to the old school geometry and figure out exactly the rest of our dimensionings. So I've tried to do this in Paint and crashed one video just because Paint is so horribly awful. So I'm just going to create this in Illustrator for now, just to show you the math and the geometry for those of you that are not too sure on how to do that. That's fine, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so basically what we have here is a step. Okay, let's focus on one step here. And I'm going to actually delete this guy because we don't need that. We just need a triangle. We don't need a fill here. Okay, so there's our step, and we've decided that we want this this step here to be 7 inches high, and we know that this is going to be 12 inches deep. I like that brush. That's nice. I wonder what brush that is. It's just a uniform brush with an oval. Weird. Okay. Anyway, back to topic here. And we know that if I move this stuff here, if we know that, copy this and make this one a lot larger. Okay, the law of similar triangles here will allow us to figure out the missing height. So this is our one step, and let's assume that this is the actual height of the whole thing, and this is the length of the whole mass. Okay, so when I say that this is the length of the whole mass, make my artboard a little bigger here, we're running out of space. Okay, when I say that this is the length of the whole mass, this is considered to be just one step. And to make it actually even more understanding, let's go ahead and we'll delete this here, and we'll say that this is one of the large steps. And we said the large step was 3 feet deep, right? Coming back here. So let's say that this 3-foot measurement right here is that line in Illustrator. So that's 36 inches. 36. Okay. And because this is 3 steps, and we said that we were going to go with a 7 step, this is going to be 21 now instead of 7. And it would have worked with the other numbers too. We would have gotten the same results. But okay, so this is 21 inches, 36 inches. Now we know the length of this entire thing is 42 feet, and I'm getting that number from this measurement right here. So I know the length of this from here to the back of this thing, assuming that the sketch this isn't a diagonal measurement, okay, and I'm not sure 100%. Either way, we'll run with 42 and we'll make it work with that. So I'm going to say that the base of this thing is 42. And when I say the base of this thing, if I go back to my east elevation, I'm going to say that from here all the way straight across, project this line down to here is 42 feet. Okay. So from there, if I bring up my calculator here, okay, and I say 42 feet times 12, right? 12 inches in each foot, 504 inches. So the length of this guy is 504 inches. So that leaves us with this unknown height that we're looking for of x, right? So the law of similar triangles says that if I take this triangle and set it equal to this triangle, the ratio should be equal. So what I'll do is I'll just say 21 over 36, right? That equals, and you want to make sure that this is a side dimension on top, that the x goes on top because it's a side dimension. So you want the side dimensions to be on the same in the numerator. If this side is a numerator, this side needs to be the numerator. So this is going to be x, and this will be x over 504. Okay, so rearranging this guy, put a little therefore thing here. If we just, I'm going to just skip a couple of algebraic steps here, but actually I'm not going to skip it because we've got an x already on the top, so we're good to go. So it's going to end up being 504 times 21, alright, because we want to get x by itself, divided by 36. Okay, so I'm going to take this 504 and multiply by 21 and divide that by 36. We'll get 294 inches. Okay, that's 294 inches. And obviously if we divide that by 12, we get 24.5 feet. Okay, remember we're in decimal here, so it's not 24 feet 5 inches, it's 24.5 feet, so that's 24 feet 6 inches. Alright, so we are at 24 feet 6 inches for our top riser height, based on the law of similar triangles there. Alright, so we get a little geometry lesson there, unrelated to Revit, but definitely important. So what that means is my top level here shouldn't be 10 feet. My top level should be 24 feet or 24.5. And that'll, notice Revit picks out the inches there for you. So now I have my second level where it needs to be. So now I can start sketching this profile here of these large steps. No easy way or short way to do this, unfortunately. There is a little bit of a shortcut that I'll show you once we get halfway up the steps. But so what I'm going to do now is actually create my component in place. And again, I said you might be able to use massing here. I recommend that you use an in-place component for this. And we can just name this generic model here. And we'll call it concrete form. Actually, that's fine. We'll rename it later. Okay, so what I want to do here is just a simple extrusion for this first one. So I'm going to sketch that profile. I'm going to sketch this profile and extrude it into the screen, if you will, or out of the screen, whichever way you want to extrude it. And you know, I just realized just now I forgot to create my work plane, so we're going to have to take a step back. I apologize for that. So I'm going to hit cancel there, and I'm going to cancel this model that I just created. You need to create reference planes for your components. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan, and if you remember, or if you were watching the video on families, reference planes are very important. So on the home tab here in the level 1, I'm going to select reference plane. And I'm going to be drawing this in an east view, so I want my reference plane to be in this direction, right? Because if this is my east elevation over here, and I'm looking in this direction, I want to draw perpendicular to my plane. Okay, this line represents a plane that is in infinite direction, this direction, and up in this way, out of the screen and into the screen. This plane is infinite. So you always have to draw your planes perpendicular to the view that you're actually going to draw in. Okay, after I draw that, I'm going to select my modify tool and then select my plane again and name this Form 1 Plane. Okay, I guess the way that I'm actually drawing this, I don't want to confuse anybody, but this is actually the way that I have this organized is false, so I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, so what I've done is I've created this reference plane to draw this shape on. So if I were to draw the second form, this line wouldn't be parallel to this, right? It would have to be parallel to this. So I would have to know the angle, which is listed on here. Looks like it's about 135 degrees in this direction, 140 to here, plus 90. Yeah, so we'll come to that later. But this straight line represents this straight line here. We're going to draw the profile on the plane located here and extrude this over to here. Okay, so we're going to extrude in this direction, and we're going to draw on the plane here. So again, if I was going to draw the next shape, I would have to make sure that I was on an angle. This reference plane wouldn't be vertical, it would be whatever angle that is. And then we would draw perpendicular to that and extrude in that direction. But we'll get to that point. So just make sure my name stuck. It did. Okay, so now I can go back to my east elevation here. And I can go back to component, model in place, generic model, and this time I'm going to say form 1, or we'll just call it section 1. Okay, so now it's time to start this extrusion, so I'm going to select extrusion. Now I can select that plane that I just created. And I'm just going to start with my steps. So I know that I'm doing a height of 7. There's 3 steps, so that means that I need to come up 21 inches, which is 1 foot 9. So up to 1 foot 9, and then over 3 feet. Up 1 foot 9, over 3 feet. You get the idea. I'm going to stop saying it because I'm sure you're going to get tired of it. The idea here is to at least get halfway up, and then we'll copy them. Or you can get it whatever you want to do. Whatever's easy. If you want to do chunks a third and copy 3 times, it's totally up to you. Whatever's quickest, obviously. We want to save money here. And the whole time you're doing this, you kind of have to hope that your math was correct. Because you definitely don't want to get to the top and find out that it doesn't match. That's kind of a bummer. Alright, where are we at here? Oh, we're almost there. Alright, so I'm going to hit escape there. I'm going to grab my modify and drag a box. And then I'm going to hit Control C to copy that on my keyboard. So Control C, and then I'm going to hit Control V. I'm just going to drop that there. And I'm going to select everything again with the box. And I'm going to select the move tool this time, and I'm going to select that end point right there and drag that snap right there. And just as I said before, my biggest fear there, oh, right here. I didn't snap in the right spot. Kind of scared me for a second. Alright, so I'm going to move this from there to there. There we go. Now we're lined up. I have some extra ones here just because I went past halfway. I can just select all those and delete. And we're right on our mark there where we need to be, which is fantastic. Up 24'6". So we have all of our steps in place there. Now we just need to give this thing a bottom form. And again, Christopher, I don't want to butcher your design here. I'm just going to go with kind of how I think it would work as I go here. So this obviously change this however you see fit. I'm just going to go into the second step there. And for now, I'm going to draw a line parallel that comes up to the second step there and straight up. And again, this is just you could draw any shape that you wanted to. If there was an arc here that you were looking at, you could add an arc there. But any shape would work in a situation. Alright, so after I have my profile completed, this definitely has to be closed in some shape or some fashion, and it's closed. It's a closed shape. I can hit the check mark here. Alright, so now I need to give this thing a depth. Since I drew my reference plane in the center, okay, the extrusion starts on the reference plane that we chose. This you have to picture coming off the screen. So if you want your extrusion to come towards you, it would be positive. If you want your extrusion to go away from you, this should be negative. So let's see, this I believe was 40 feet. We'll put 40 in here and double check. I want it to go away from me in this case, so I'm going to just hit negative 40 feet. and hit apply there, and then I'm going to hit finish model. I'm going to go back to my floor plan to double check the measurement there. Yeah, 40 feet. Well, it's actually saying, and I'm not too sure what's going on here, it's actually saying 40 feet from here to here. That's not necessarily, unless the scan just is missing this line here, which I'm guessing maybe it looks like that's the case. So I'm guessing that this is 40 feet. So we want to, since we're going to actually, thinking ahead, we're going to cut this away. We want to extrude that original extrusion the full length, and then we'll cut away from it. Okay, so anytime you're going to have an angle like this, when you're doing components, we're basically going to do a void extrusion here to cut this away. So we want to extrude to the fullest length possible, and then we'll cut away from that. So that's why I extruded this 40 feet in this direction here. Okay, so this extrudes 40 feet. Now, the reason we're not seeing all of this is because we're in a plan view, and if you're somewhat experienced with Revit, you realize that there's a view depth issue here. Our cut plane is probably set to something like 4 feet, and we're going to want that to be much higher because we know that this comes up 24 feet. So for this view, I'm going to have to go make sure I'm in my view properties with nothing selected here, and go down to view range, and you'll see that the cut plane is indeed at 4 feet, and my top plane is at 7'6". So I want this to be at least 25 feet, right? And I want my cut plane to be, well, I'm going to actually make this 26 feet. I'm going to make my cut plane at 25 feet, which is 6 inches higher than my actual object. And you'll see I get all my stairs in there, so it no longer cuts that down, which is what we want. So now I can see the whole thing there. So this area here represents, this first chunk here without the cut. The next step is to actually do the cut. Alright, so the next step, like I said, is to create this cut. So I'm going to select my model. Now I'm not going to create a new model. I want to stick with the same model, so I can still just select my model, and then I want to edit this in place. Notice I'm back in my project now. This would be just like good old Revit where you're adding walls or whatever. So in order to edit this, you need to select it and go and edit it. You need to edit this like it's a family. Okay, it's an in-place family is all it is. So you need to edit the family if you want to change it. And once I'm in here, I need to jump to the Home tab, and you'll notice I have my family tools back. And this time I want to create a void form because we had already said that we want to cut this other chunk away. So I'm going to create a void form, and I'm going to create a void extrusion. And I know that this comes down, I'll just rough this in for now to something like that, because we're going to cut that chunk out of the side of it. Looking at this reference image here, you see that we're cutting that triangle out. Alright, and see if I can I don't know if we're going to be able to modify that point. These model lines are a bit tricky. How big do we want? We want this to be 18 feet. Okay, so we want this segment here to be 18 feet. What is it now? So we need to make this 7 3/16 shorter. So just drag this point over. I have to maybe zoom in. There we go, 18 feet, and then I can drag this point over here to match. Delete that because I don't need it anymore. And now that I have my closed triangular shape, I can hit check mark. That's okay. And just like before, we need to enter extrusion. Now this time I'm on the ground plane, which is where I started. So my extrusion start can start at 0, but this needs to go up to the height of this thing. And this thing is, we said 24'6". It could go higher, a little bit higher if you wanted it to. 24'6" should be fine. And you'll see that cuts that chunk away. So now would be a proper time to add a 3D view to see our progress. Alright, so there's our large amphitheater seating, 3 feet depth, and with the notch cut off the side there. So we need to add a stairway here up the side, and because we took the time to set up our levels and figure out our heights, we can just drop a stairway right in there and cross our fingers that we have 3 stairs that line up for each one of these. Alright, so let's do that. Go ahead and catch up, and I'll meet you back here. Alright, onward. Let's add some steps. So, just like you would add steps in anything now, we can actually just jump straight to our first level here. Okay, there's that reference plane that we created for our straight portion. There's the extrusion over to the side. So for this, I can just, like I said, just go to home, and I'm actually still inside my model, so I'm going to finish my model here. And I am going to locate stairs. Alright, and I'm going to do monolithic, edit type, and I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to do form 1 mono stair. Alright, because I'm going to make some changes. I don't want to make changes to my system there, so I'm going to just create my own, go through here and fine tune things that I might want and what might not want. This exterior. Since that's what we have 3, right? So yeah, that's all good. This is all pretty good for now, so hit OK there. And I'm just going to click and drag my box. And I think I stopped it short there, so I need to drag this until it says 0 remaining. And thinking of this just out loud, especially directed to you, Christopher, when you watch this video, you're probably definitely going to need, every so often, you're going to want to take a few of these out and create a landing. Yeah, you're probably definitely going to need a landing in here every so often, but we'll move forward with this. Okay, so because I know my level is correct, and because theoretically my tread depth here is set to 12. Okay, you want to make sure your tread depth is set to 1 foot. I think by default it might be 11, but the way I changed my settings, I'm at 1/7 here. You should just be good to go. So I'm going to check this. Notice I didn't really line it up yet. And there's railings on here by default. I'm going to select those and delete the railings for now. And I'm going to use my align tool to align this to my form. So I will select my stairs and select align. And then I'll select the left side of my form there. And then my stairs, that'll move those. I'll lock that. And then I'll also align the front with the front. And that'll lock that. And wouldn't you know, we're a little bit off here somewhere. So you can see we're just a tad bit off, but by the time we get up high, we're going to be really far off. So we need to figure out the source of that problem. Alright, so I'm going to select my stairs here. And we'll see what could possibly be causing us a problem. One thing in here that I noticed, I'm going to change this back to interior. Apply and see if that bumps it back up. No. Here we go. Nosing length of 3/4. We don't want a nosing length. Just want to measure this to see 3 feet. That's right. This is why in the world Are we off? Okay, I'm gonna actually, now that I've unchecked that box for nosing, I feel like the nosing's still for some reason stuck in here, so I'm gonna select everything in here, delete it. And I wanna make sure that my nosing is turned off still. Oh, there's an edit type here. Nosing length 0, profile. Okay, so let's try drawing that again. There we go. So after we changed that nosing profile, it wasn't recognizing the change for whatever reason. But now we're right on. So now we have our 3 steps every step, and I hope that's what was in the original picture. Let's check it out. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 steps per step, all the way up. Looks like we have down in the right direction. If for whatever reason down wasn't in the right direction, if I wanted down to be in the other direction, notice when I select these steps, I get this little arrow down here. By selecting that arrow, it actually will flip your step. So now down's in this direction, but actually I think that's the right. So let's check it out in a 3D view and see. Yeah. Okay, so now our steps are aligned there where they need to be, all the way up to the very top, and it fits perfectly. So again, by doing that little bit of math there in the beginning, it kind of helped us as far as it goes when it comes to this portion of it. So if I go to my east elevation view now, you'll see the steps are there as well. So I think the next portion is going to be and just to show you editing the profile, I know this was a question that came up. After you've created this form, it's okay for you to select this, and once you're in, especially in this side view, hit edit in place. And if you want to change this profile after the fact, that's totally fine. You just hit edit extrusion, and then there's that profile. So if I wanted to add like an arc to this, now that I've had a chance to look at how the stairs fit in there, I can come in here now with this arc and maybe put an arc to this if that's what you're looking for as far as final effect. I just need to make sure I delete that line. Okay, once I have that there, I can get rid of that, and that gives me a nice arc there. And then in 3D view, obviously, now I have this arc effect going on with my, notice I still keep that cut there at an angle, which is a pretty interesting effect there. So, but I definitely think you're going to need a landing here somewhere, and that means it's going to even complicate things even more for your steps. Not really, actually. Well, yeah, it is. So that's for you, the designer, to figure out, I guess, how you want to tackle that. So let me go ahead and look at this next section here of getting these things to overlap and how you might tackle that. So I'm going to pause here in case something crashes or whatever, and I'll come back. Okay, so I was looking at this drawing a little more in depth here, and it looks like a couple things are going to need to happen in order for this concept to work. And the design, you may have to reconsider how this works out. I mean, you as when I'm speaking to Christopher directly in this, but I'm going to go ahead with the only way that I can think that I can get this to work right now, and that's to offset these levels. At least, I'm guessing we're going to need at least, to start off with, at least 8 feet. So, judging by what is in the first level here, it looks to me like this is the highest level. So this actually needs to be 16 feet higher than the others, right? If this is going to be on top of these other two layers. So this one's got to be at least 8 feet for some headroom, unless we drop this down a level, which we can look at later. But now I'm just going to do a straight offset of 8 feet here. So I need to create some new levels. Alright, so I'm going to go to my east elevation here, and I'm going to drag out some new levels. Okay, while I'm here, I'm going to just go ahead and name this ground. This will be section 3, I'm sorry, this will be section 2. And the highest level will be section 3. Alright, and like I said, this is going to have to be at least probably 8 feet off the ground. This will have to be 16. Okay, which now means I need to add 16 onto the 24/6. So that gives me 46. Really, really high up there. So I'm not sure if this was necessarily considered in this concept again, but I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward for now. So we need to first adjust where this thing's actually resting. If you remember, this actual extrusion was created on a plane on the side, so in order to move this up, I really should just be able to align this model chunk here. So I'm just going to select this guy, and we'll try and use the align tool here. And this is the third section, so I want to align this with this. Let's see. Not sure. We'll try editing the actual mass itself here. So I'm inside the actual extrusion here. Alright, still getting an error, so we'll go one step further. We'll actually go inside the extrusion and we'll move everything up. Select all of this, and I'll move this to there. Alright, so I actually had to go in and edit my move my profile completely. Alright, and the stairs were actually created on a plane, so I actually want the base level now, instead of be ground, I want my base level to be section 3. So I'll change my base level to section 3, and that'll move those up. Top level should be level 2. And we'll rename this now. Something that makes sense. Alright, I hope this makes somewhat sense for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to come back in here and see if we can get away with just copying this profile for now. So I'm going to select everything and hit Control C. Okay, I'm still in my extrusion here. I want to still be inside my model, which I am. You can tell by going to the Home tab, and I see I still have my tools here. And I want to do the second section. But before I do that, we need to note from the ground view here. Looks like I need to adjust my view plane, so I'll do that again really fast here. Select nothing. Actually, I need to get out of the model view to do this. go back to view range. If you remember, now we changed our height to something like, I don't know, 45 feet. I can't remember exactly. And this was maybe 44 feet. Oh, you know what? I need to adjust my cut here as well. So I'm going to hit edit in place. I'm going to select that cut that we created, and I'm going to change my extrusion start here. Let's see. Actually, no, excuse me, that's correct. I need to go to my right view here and locate that sketch of the extrusion. Here's my void extrusion here. And I just need to move that to here. Let's see, it's got to be a little more tricky than that, I think. Select my void extrusion here, move this up to there, move this arrow up to the top. There we go. So I need to move that cut, so now when I go back, that cut should be back where it should be, and it is, so that looks good. Okay. Alright, so we need to do this next section. Now, if you remember when we created the plane, this plane, I'm going to hit finish model here to get back. When we created this plane, we named it Form 1 plane, and that was this vertical line here. This time we're not going to have that luxury, okay, because this plane is on a different angle than just 90 degrees. It's actually probably going to turn out to be an actually odd angle. So what we're going to actually do here, instead of worrying about measuring angles, I'm just going to go ahead and draw a reference plane here that's somewhat close to it, like this. And I'm going to use my trusty align tool here to select that, and that will align that plane so that it's nice and parallel. And then I'll hit escape and drag that back. So now it's actually parallel, but I've actually just moved it back, and you can see it is actually off at a weird angle. It's not in a precise angle. They usually never are. So you can see that that could be an irrational number. It could even be a smaller angle than that. So you have to be very careful when you're dealing with angles. It's good to use your align tool in a case like this. I'm going to give this a name as my second section plane. And judging from here, I think the step should actually be under here, just to get as much sheeting as possible. So I'm going to make this offset 3 feet to match the width of the stairs over here. Alright, so I'll put that in there. I'll select that guy, type 3 feet here. That'll lock that in at 3 feet. I can actually delete that now. And I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place with my pin tool so I don't accidentally move that plane. Okay, the next step is when you create a vertical line like this, it's easy to get a view that's what's considered normal to. Now in a lot of 3D modeling programs you can select an object, and usually you can select view, you know, like view normal to, and it will give you a view perpendicular to that surface. I've yet to come across anything like that in Revit, so to get by, what you need to do is just create a new elevation. So I'm going to actually go to the home, or I'm sorry, the view tab here, and I'm going to select elevation, and I'm just going to draw an elevation right about there. Then I'm going to select my elevation. I'm going to select rotate, and I'm going to select rotate there, and I'm going to move my little rotate thing by clicking that little dot and snap it to there. So now I'm actually rotating, but I'm snapped to this for reference. Okay, and then I'm going to just go from an even 0 degrees, and I'm going to rotate up to there. And it looks like I accidentally rotated the wrong way, but we're still perpendicular here, so I can uncheck that, and whoops. Check this first, and then uncheck this. There we go. So now we have a view that's perpendicular to the surface, so now we can draw directly on this plane. I need to move this back here first, maybe. Okay, so now I'm looking directly at this plane, which I need to do in order to draw on that surface. So now I can come here and double click on the triangle to go to that view. Alright, so now we need to continue this model. I'm going to make this one solid model, so I need to go back into this component so I don't have three separate components. And I'm going to set my work plane to the work plane that I just created. And I'm going to do an extrusion like before. And if you remember, I copied that profile a while ago, so I'm going to paste it, Control V. I'll drop that on the second level down here. Alright, so what we actually want to happen here I'm going to try to align, let's see if we can align this. Actually, I'm not going to be able to align anything necessarily because this all needs to be grouped first if I'm going to try that. So let's try and select all those objects. And, you know, since they're model lines, we're actually not even going to be able to group them, which is unfortunate. And I'm not going to go through and constrain each one of these. So we'll just have to move it the old-fashioned way here. And I want to be on that area, but I want to be on this plane, so try and get a snap to come down here. It doesn't want to come down there. It comes down a little bit. Alright, let's go ahead and hit OK here, and let's just see where we're at with this. I still am not happy about that. So actually what I'm going to do here to make sure that I'm aligned, just draw a line here, straight down. You can see I'm actually not where I'm supposed to be there. So if I select everything except for this line, so I need to hold down Shift and select that line to deselect that, and now I can move all of this over so it intersects with that line. And it's telling me lines are overlapping. We're going to delete that anyway. I just needed it to line up that line. So once that's good, I can check mark there. We're going to do the same deal here. We're going to do 40 feet. Remember, it's going in the other direction, so it should be negative. Okay, so now if I go to a 3D view, we have the overlapping there. Let's see what's actually going on here. There shouldn't be, actually this should not be, I lied when I said this should be, the stairs should be underneath there, not the actual seats. So I need to go back in here and edit this extrusion. Actually, I don't even need to do that. I need to go to my ground plane here, and just instead of offsetting this plane 3 feet, I need to just align this directly to the edge of this other one. I need to unpin it first. Obviously I pinned it, so I can unpin that and align it and then just lock it. Alright. Alright, so we can see some things that need to change. If I go to a right view here, this point needs to be back a certain distance. If I go to a 4, it might be easier to see here. want this to align with this. So basically what that means, if I measure this distance here, measure from there to there, see that that's 29 19/64. So I'll jump back in here. And I'll go to my referring view here. And I want to select everything. And from any base point, it doesn't matter. I want to move this 29 and 19/64. Oops, I think I just moved that in feet. There we go. Alright, okay that and okay that. Go back to a 3D view here. Looks like they're in line now from that point of view. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do now, we might want to experiment with making this one longer. I need to cut out an area for some steps to come up and kind of curve up and over. I also need to, I think, maybe cut an angle in this one also. Take a look. Okay, again, it doesn't really matter that these aren't necessarily lining up because remember they're on different planes now. It looks like this actually stops here, how that is, and then it looks like we have another angle here as well. Must be somewhat, I would imagine, similar, so we'll just assume that it is here. So edit this again. Cut away here. Should be 18 feet. It does not like that. Take that off of there and see if that helps. There we go. And we'll put this back on there. Alright. And this needs to go up. Let's see. What do we say for the second level was 8. I think we can do maybe 30 here. It doesn't really matter as long as it's higher. Doesn't look like it's higher there. Alright, so maybe I'm going in the wrong direction here. So let me go ahead and try negative 30 feet here. I guess first let's make sure that we're actually drawing. Whoops. If I could find that void again, that would be great. Let's go to another view here. It's on my ground floor down here. That could be why. You know, while we're here, let's just skip the entering number. As much fun as it is. And we don't need it all the way down there. It might cause problems later when we bump that arrow up to there. Alright, that's such a weird error because I'm pretty sure it is where it needs to be. Let's go to section 2 here. Let's see. Go back to equation. Section 2. Section 2. Okay. So 0. I also need to adjust my view plane here, but I can't necessarily do that just yet. Weird. It's closed. Make sure that it's closed. It is closed. It's a void, which is what we want. Work plane should be not ground 0, it should be level section 2. Let's see if that helps. Nope. Oh, this is weird. Alright, finish model. Alright, I'm going to delete this. Finish model, and then I'm going to actually come back here and change my property so I can see the top of this thing. No, it doesn't matter here. 40 feet, I don't really feel like messing with it. This can't be the same, so I'll make that 39 feet. Wonderful. Okay, so now with that like that, maybe we were off a little bit there. Just stop there before we go any further and change this to 18 feet. That's right, I think it's supposed to be 18 feet. I can't remember off the top of my head. There we go. Fantastic. And while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and do a cut here as well. Let's see. Home, and I want to set my work plane. I want to make sure I'm on level 2. I'm going to do another void extrusion. And I'm going to come up here. Let's see. So we know that these are 21 inches high on each one of them. So that means by the time, and this is already offset, so we really can probably, this is 3 feet deep. Let's go ahead and get rid of 2 of them for now. Again, I'm just going by the seat of my pants here, so feel free to change this. And 3, make sure it's not perpendicular there. Alright, and I'm going to change my height here to something like 10 feet. Again, it doesn't really matter. Just make sure it's larger than what it should be. Alright, so let's check this out. Alright. Alright, so let's go ahead and drop some stairs in here. I'm going to go to section 2 here. And I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to finish my model. Go to Stairs. I'm going to have my custom stair from last time selected there. And I'm just going to come up to about try and continue this here. Notice Revit will fill that junction in for you for this step over there. So this kind of step up, and then you walk over, and then you keep stepping up here. That's not what I wanted to do. So, 60s are 3 feet wide. I guess I could try and measure this so that this is this would be 18, not 18 feet. I'm sorry, I always put in, I always think of an AutoCAD and just put in the feet there, so that will align that to the side there better. Let's see, this walkway is going to be 3 feet here, so same situation. I actually want to measure from here to here. And I'll align this guy to there. And I want to align this step to there. And this step to there. Now these guys need to move up. That's supposed to be 12, not 12 feet. Once again, my mistake. 12 inches. 12 inches. Looks like this needs to be 12 inches. And this needs to be 12 inches. There we go. Okay, and I want my top level to be to section. I don't want it to be section 3. And I don't really want it to be top of structure either, but let's see how high that makes us go. Still going, huh? I don't understand why it would be so high there. There's some... What's my treads say? Maybe because we're missing out here. It looks like, for whatever reason, we lost this information here. Stay locked. Saying that we are we gonna get an error here? It's fine. You just see where we're at. Okay, so it looks like we have headroom. We might need to bump this corner up here. Check the headroom, and we can delete this railing. We don't need that. We might need to keep this one for safety purposes. But we can come back and add that kind of stuff later. I'm not really concerned about the railings right now. Alright, so I don't see it being possible to necessarily lower this anymore. Let's see if we can get a measurement here. It's going to be tough because there's an arch here on the bottom. But let's try. Let's go to maybe an elevation view here. Oof. Wow. Let's see. Okay, so this is our first one. This is our second one here. We want to measure from here to there. Ooh, that's not good. That's 5 feet. That's 6 feet. It's a little better. Still needs to be a minimum of, I would guess, 8 feet at least. So you're going to have to make some adjustments here. I'm not going to really mess around with trying to figure out how to get that to work. That's totally up to you. Back here, 3D view. One thing you could consider doing is scrapping the idea of keeping your stairs along the side here and do kind of like a football stadium and have an opening here to where your stairs come through the back, and then you can come out the back and load somehow. Maybe that would help you with your height, but you can see here that you're running into some difficulties with how that actually is going to work out height-wise. Then too, you have the large obstruction here. If anything's happening over here, these guys in the middle might miss out on something over here on the stage. If the stage is that large, I'm not sure how this is going to be used. Looks like your stage is, here could definitely be some obstruction from over here. Looks like you still have some work ahead of you, but I think with what I've kind of showed you here, hopefully that will help you help shed some light on how you need to create your model to help you visualize this stuff by using the components. Basically, you're jumping back and forth between reference planes. You want to make sure you name your reference planes correctly. You want to make sure you name your levels correctly and make your life much easier. You need to make sure your views are aligned perfectly, perpendicular to the plane that you plan on drawing on. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of problems. Again, it's a lot of just creating extrusions and cuts. That's all you're really doing. There's nothing really on this project where you would need any. You could maybe use a sweep if this was going to be all on one plane, or how it originally was. If you go back to that, you can use a sweep. And again, if that was the route that you wanted to take, that would be totally fine. But other than from what I can see here, there's some work that would still have to be done to figure this out, especially height-wise, as far as your structure goes. Some definite issues that I can see here. View obstruction is my biggest concern here, and you still have one more level to go here, which would be one more level down. Again, those guys would be obstructed by anything here, because it would be, again, lower than this view. So maybe take some time to think about it and let me know what you decide. We can always revisit the idea of using the sweep. And I'll go ahead and show you that method now. Since we already have the profile, it won't be too much. I'll go ahead and just go to my ground floor plane here, and I'll jump over here and just create another reference plane just to show you method 2 here. Let's see. So I want to create a reference plane. this, so that would be, we'll just call this method 2 plane. Alright, so we'll go to an east elevation. And for now, I'm actually going to hide this stuff. You know, actually, I'm going to duplicate view with detailing. I'm going to rename this East Method 2, and I'll just hide almost view of these elements. Okay, I'll go down here to my ground, and I actually want to go create another component. This is going to be a different one. Again, this will be a generic model. Whoops, that's fine. Method 2 works. I'm going to paste that profile from before. Still had it on my clipboard. I'm going to paste it on the ground plane. I'm going to do a sweep. I'm going to sketch a path here. I'm going to actually sketch a path on the top ground plane. And I'm going to draw this, 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 and this. This will be 18 feet. Lock there. Alright, so scrap this idea here. I apologize. And say no. Yes. I'm going to scrap my sweep altogether. Cancel my model altogether. I'm going to try this again. I think I accidentally pasted my profile in the wrong spot there, so I'm going to jump back to my east elevation method 2 here, and actually going to try this again. So now I'm going to select sweep first. Set my work plane to the method 2 plane. Sketch a path. Path is actually supposed to be in the ground plane here. Change this back to ground. Okay, this is 18 feet. This is 18 feet. feet. Judging from the sketch here, this should be 140 degrees. Nothing on the other one. That's not good to assume, but for this, I don't think it'll matter if I assume that that angle is 140 degrees. So we'll go ahead and put 140 on this guy too. And change this back to 18 feet. Does not like me changing this. Alright, so there's our path for our sweep. And edit my profile. This is the elevation that we created. Okay, so I want this to be my start point, so I can paste this, Control V, and I'll paste that front step because we drew the inside line, so I just want to place that there. Finish there, finish there, finish there. Okay, and then if I go to a 3D view here, there's the original one. There's the one we just did with a sweep. Obviously it's much cleaner because it's all on one plane, whereas this one we tried to break up into two planes. With this, again, I showed you, I think, one way to take care of this. Now, when it comes to the actual stairs for this one, when you do these stairs, you're not going to be able to do a typical stairway. Your stairs are going to have to kind of be awkward, to say the least. So what we'll do here is we'll go back here and edit this again. So I'm going to edit, oh, I'm still in my model here, so I don't need to edit anything. I just need to create a void extrusion like before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line right down the middle of this angle here. I'm going to offset this 18 inches in both directions. And then I'm just going to delete this. I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to go from the intersection here. And then use my trim tool. And looks like I need to use my extend tool. Oops. And then use my line tool here. Looks like I missed it there, no big deal. Grab the dots and move them down. Awesome, get out of the way. Alright. Thank you, obnoxious dimension, you can leave. So we've got that, now I can cut a hole there in the corner. I need to make this, again, 45 feet. I'll slice and dice into two, even though it's still one component. And if we did, it's probably not correct, because I'm so sloppy, a little tired right now for whatever reason. I'm going to try and get by with mirroring this guy and see if that works. And we're off a little bit, or I'm off. I hate to drag you into this, viewers, but I'm off a little bit there with my math. So I'm going to undo that. And the reason that I'm off, I'm not actually off. What's off is when I created this void, this line's no longer a midpoint, right? Because this is that much shorter now, half the distance, which is why this was messed up. So, just because I feel like being on with my measurements here, I'm going to draw this imaginary line, and I will trim this guy, and then I will draw another mirror here. I'll mirror that feature, and I need to make sure that now if I snap to my midpoint here, perpendicular snap. Now you can see that we are aligned there. And I can delete this line now, I don't need it. So now we have three separate chunks here. Alright. I'll go back to the ground floor here. I don't need that line either, I can delete that. And what I'm going to do is just insert stairs like I did before. Trying to get a parallel snap here. You know, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I want to go from ground. I want to go to the top of structure though. So that means I'm gonna have to select this and drag this dot up here. Why it says I have so many remaining? Oh, you know, there we go. 19. There's no way that I have 19 remaining still. Starting from the ground. Oh, you know what? Top of structure was the old one. That's probably very true. I only need to go. Need to create a new level. I think. Fix that. If you remember that the top of the level was for the 3 stacks. Again, I'm not thinking clearly here, so I'm going to actually have to go back and do an east elevation method 2. I actually don't have an elevation where I need it, so I will have to add one. 24.6 is the correct size, if you remember from our original calculations. Obviously you don't want these things all over the place, but for the point of this demonstration, well, maybe I can even say these are correct for the other view. If you remember, that's turned off, so we're going to leave this how it is. Alright, so now I can go back to my plan view here and insert some stairs. And I want to start at ground and I want to go up to what did I name that? I don't think I named it. Alright, back one more time. I apologize. Section 4. So it was in there. I just took on the next name from the next one up. Ah, boy. so I'm going to align, actually I'm not going to align anything necessarily in here. Yeah, I am. I changed my mind. I'm going to make sure these are nice and neat and actually inside of here. So this should be half of 3'6" or 18 inches. Now the tricky part here is going to be what we need to happen is these steps as of right now, because these are coming in at angles, aren't going to align correctly necessarily. Alright, so there's a couple different ways that we can think about solving this. And the reason that they don't align now, and they did before, but they aligned before because we were taking it straight on. So when this comes up, this first step comes up 7 inches, I think is what it's set on. So the first one comes up 7 inches and goes back 12 inches. But when it goes back 12 inches, it doesn't quite go the right distance here. So what we need to do is calculate the distance that this actually needs to take up at this angle, if that makes any sense. So what we're going to do here is measure this angle. So we'll measure this angle here. Oh good, we've got a nice 70 degrees there, so that makes life easier. Alright. What's this angle? This angle is 110 degrees. Let's go ahead and keep with this angle on the inside here. Keep this at 70 degrees. And what I'm going to do here is just draw an imaginary line for now. Okay, that's 155, 256. That's almost a half inch, I believe. Let's pull up our trusty calculator here. Divided by 256. Alright, so 0.605. So we've got 24 plus 11 plus 0.6025, 35.6. Okay, so we've got 35.6 over here, so let's do another sketch here. So our stairs are coming in here at an angle, something like this. We'll create a triangle. And let's put windows to use here and create some windows. This. We can get rid of this for now. I don't need that either. Alright. Looks like I got this actually backwards here. Whoops. Guess we could probably have done this, maybe take it into AutoCAD, but while we're learning, oops, actually had it right the first time. While we're learning here, it's best to go ahead and cover the math Alright, so we know that we want to know, I'm going to delete this angle here. Alright, that's 20 degrees. Alright, and we know that this was, what did we say that was? 35.6025. Okay, so if we look at what's happening here again, we are actually not making it completely there because we're short. This should actually be, the step is 3 feet here, which actually, since this is 3 feet, let's go ahead and say that this is 3 feet here. All right, so this is 36 inches. So the problem is we're short. So the question is actually, where do we need to make this so that we can fit 3 of these into each one of these chunks as the goal. So we've got 20 degrees here, and we want 3 of these to fit perfectly within this 20 degrees. And this is 36. So basically what we can do here is we need to figure out, we could do Pythagorean's theorem. Since we know the other dimension, let's just go ahead and use cosine. We have an adjacent side, we want to know the hypotenuse, we know the angle, and that tells us basically that cosine of 20 equals adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So that's 36 over x. Furthermore, that tells us that cosine of 20 simple algebra here, and I'm screwing that up. I apologize. Let me erase that. And let's do, I want x, so it's actually 36 over cosine of 20. That's going to equal x. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this in the calculator here. So I'm going to do, make sure I'm on degrees here, I'm not in radians. I'm going to do 20 cosine, let's do 36 first. 36 divided by 20 cosine equals 38.31. Okay, so our hypotenuse there is 38.31 inches. So that tells me that my hypotenuse is 38.31, but I want to divide that into 3. That's 12.77. So we divide that by 3, we get 12.77 inches for each step. So our tread depth is no longer 12, it's called even. We want to be as close as possible, so let's go ahead and call it, let's go ahead and do 12 3/4 and see if that helps us. And once again, I've put in feet. Somebody should start a scholarship for every time that I do that. Some kid would be very lucky someday. Okay, so I'm off this step coming out here. We'll delete that. Let's see how the other things look. That looks pretty good, considering it's not actually starting on that point. We're going to be a little bit off there. The question is, how much does it catch up to us in the end? And it looks like we're doing okay out through here. Oh, what's that? What is that? I think my stairs just got bumped here. This needs to come down to here. So doesn't this? I'm not sure what that guy is. Alright. Looks like we're missing out one of those guys there. So our math is correct here. It looks like we've got 3 fitting in there perfectly. So again, you probably could have just measured this leg length. But I thought it'd be interesting to go ahead and throw some cosine in, some trigonometry, to go with our geometry from before. Whenever you get into complex things like this, it shouldn't be simple for you anyway. You should have to think on it a little bit. So let's jump back here full screen, and I'm going to add a riser here. And if I knew which one I just added, I could measure it to make sure it was right distance, but I don't know where it went, so I'm going to ignore it for now. Alright. Oh, I think I missed one here. Let's go back in. It doesn't... Why is it, it's not showing me my... actual number. I've got 40. Desired's 42. So... Oh, I hate Revit stairs so much. I'm going to give it 2 more. Should put me up to about there. Read that. Two remaining. Alright, so let me put some dimensions on these guys so that they're legit. That one is legit. Oh, you know what? These are supposed to be 12.75, aren't they? So that's not legit. Let me click on that guy again. Alright. And we don't need the railings. Alright, so there are your steps in there. They fit perfectly with the 12.75 inches for the height there. I think we can probably get away with doing another mirror here. We're going to need actually I'm just going to mirror this one by eye. As long as I'm perpendicular here, I can align this. Oopsie, that's not going to work. Just move it to there. There we go. Nice and simple. So this is an optional route to take here. I wanted to throw this in here because after looking at this idea, it might not work so well. You might be able to get that to work, but I wanted to throw out an option here as well for something that is more of a traditional route with the steps here. At least you have it documented in a video now of how that would actually come together with your steps actually lining up where they need to be. Alright. Alright, so that concludes this video. I hope it wasn't too choppy for you guys. Again, this was not something that was really necessarily planned out. It's something that kind of learning as we both go along there. So hopefully you're able to get something out of these, or this process, I guess. There's a couple other focus videos that are coming out. One being a glass dome for a roof, and we're going to also look at curtain walls on masses. So those will be coming shortly. Take care.